Welcome to the final day of the preliminary stage of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational Champions Chess Tour. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to have a fun day of games. Today was a ton of chaos, and there is a reason that the two grandmasters featured in the thumbnail are doing what they are doing. Okay, so you know the drill. I'm going to take you through the best games of the day. Timestamps are on the video player, and then I will show you the matchups going into the playoffs. And that's it. All right? Let's kick things off between David Anton Hikaru and Timur Radjabov. White versus David Anton has the white pieces. Timur Radjabov's got the black pieces. And we get an opening that's a bit peculiar. This is an opening, and e5, by the way, is kind of a cool move, but it's a double fianchetto, right? So David Anton wants to play, he wants to go for this kind of bishop b2, bishop on g2 setup. But Timur plays e5, which is actually kind of an instigating move. That is not a free pawn, because of course there is a pin. And then he plays e4. So a very kind of confrontational game already. I mean, d5, striking back in the center. Hikaru takes on d5, but now queen d5. And knight comes back to c2. This pawn is very strong, and even though the queen is in the center, what you'll see what happens with the queen is it goes here. This is very annoying. All right, the queen is kind of like the, it's like the guy standing outside the business with the baseball bat, in a mafia movie, like, hey, except it's the most powerful piece on the board. And it's like, if you're going to castle your king, I'm going to go attack you. And the thing is that normally in this case, you have pawns, you have a bishop, but this is a really annoying thorn, and it's guarded, and it's hard to get rid of. So David plays knight to e3, Timur long castles. Now his king is out of the middle of the board, and he's anticipating his opponent is going to castle short. So he goes long. Queen c2. Now he plays bishop to c5 and bishop b2. So it's pretty clear that this is coming, right? That's what he's setting up. But Timur plays rook e8. And now it's the moment of truth. Are you going to castle long? It's a pretty bold move. Are you going to castle short? Or are you going to play rook c1? Okay. With that move, it means you're not going to castle long. So I'm going to play king b8, just a waiting move. And now you play h3, so you're playing a waiting move. All right, I'm done waiting, knight to e5. And the idea of knight to e5 is as follows. King f1, this is not a mouse slip. This is not a mouse slip. Actually, the idea is that you put your knight right here, supported by the queen and the pawn and the bishop. And if David Anton had castled here, he would have still gotten hit with this move. Pawn takes, and the thing is that here you can save your bishop. But look at this absolute dynamite that will strike here. Rook takes d2. Queen takes, queen h3. And the threat of black is at some point to play knight to g4 and queen h2 mate. And there is nothing white can do about it. The next move is going to be bishop takes and knight g4. Actually, it's not even going to be bishop takes because you can actually go here. And you say, Levy, how is that possible? I just take the knight. And I say, well, Gotham Chess subscriber, and if you're not yet subscribed, click the subscribe button. Queen takes g3. Say, I just take the... Oh, whoa. All right. You can have my money. I'm sorry. So king f1, he plays knight f3 anyway. Now you can't even take because your bishop has no moves. So David Anton just moves knight back to b1. He's like, I'm just going to set up for the next game. This is bad. Timur plays bishop a6, activating his bishop on another diagonal. David Anton tries to kick out the queen. The queen slides over. Now he tries to kick out the bishop. The bishop says, time to remove a guard. Pawn takes, knight to d5. David Anton attacks the queen. But we get queen takes g4, rook h3, knight takes h4, losing two pawns. Rook to g3, attacking the queen. And he just takes. And he takes with check, because if rook takes, queen g2, king e1 is mate on g1. And if you take with a pawn, I take your rook, so he moves his king out of the way. And Timur Radjabov finishes the game in style. Queen takes g3, f takes g3, and take the queen. Salt Bay, bam! Knight takes c2, flaring. Flare. I don't know why I said flaring. I meant to say he won with flare. It doesn't matter. Rook takes c2 was, knight c2 was the final move. Rook c2, it doesn't really matter because after rook c2, rook d1 comes, I take your bishop, I take your knight, I take everything you have. Not much to say about this game except Timur Radjabov woke up and he chose violence. He wanted to make a run for the top 8, so he did it in resounding fashion by winning his game. We move to another game. This one by the front runner of the event, Anish Giri, along with Magnus Carlsen. They are up top. sorry, not Timur. Anish plays e4, c5, and e6. This is known as the Taimanov Khan kind of fusion, you know, e6, a6, knight c6, kind of the Taimanov variation. And he takes on c6. And taking on c6 leads to a position where after queen d3, white makes it clear that they want to castle queenside, and black just wants to fight in the center with d5. So queen moves to g3. Say, Gotham, what the hell is this? And I say they're 2700s, leave them alone, okay? They're like the weird kids at the playground who rather than running and going down the slide are like eating sand together, okay? We will never understand what they're doing, only they will understand what they're doing. Queen to g3. The point is you're not trying to let black move the bishop. The bishop stays guarding the g7 pawn, the queen is very safe here, and maybe in the future you'll attack on the dark squares, because all these pawns are on light squares, which means the dark squares are weak, okay? So d4 attacks the knight moves back to... Alright, everybody have a good night. I'll see you in the next recap. What? H5. Okay. 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 So knight f6, e5. That move makes sense. Knight e4. Got to move the queen. Okay. Bishop b4 check. Good. Now let's trade some pieces. Very good. Very good. Let's go here. Very good. And that move actually stops white from castling queenside because the a2 pawn would be hanging. So Anish plays f4. Very logical. And then Anish just, you know, prepares queenside castling by kicking the queen away, and now he's ready to castle. We have rook d8, king to b1, very useful move, getting the king out of the way and defending the weak pawn's short castle. Okay, so Nepo here just gives the pawn away. It's the whole point is to deflect the bishop away from kind of the rest of the pieces, and he wants to go d3. He wants to kind of create this counterplay. Now, Anish here plays rook g1 because he wants to play g4. It's very clear he wants to propel the pawn, little jetpack. So we get rook d7, and look at that. How did I know? Oh my god. So rook to b8, lining up the rook to the... I mean, look, again, as I've been saying throughout our recaps, the kings are on opposite sides. The lines are opening up. Look, someone's going to die very soon. I mean, we all are on a mildly depressing note. You know, someone's gonna die on the chessboard today. Bishop takes g4, a4 takes. And in this position, you know, one guy is a move away from just checkmating the other, like queen d4, some queen b2. I know it's guarded, but a3 is coming. And one guy is a move away from checkmating the other. Now, at this point, Anish Giri has to move his bishop and at the same time create a threat of mate. So what is the best thing that he can do with his bishop? And if you said bishop takes pawn, congratulations! You played the move that Anish Giri played. But it lost the game. It was not the right move. Anish Giri had to go bishop f5. Because it doesn't take a pawn, but it threatens the bishop. You say, what's the difference between this? Well, the bishop can come back. The bishop can come back. Bishop f5. And the problem here is that if you don't do anything, like if you go back and guard mate, I take your bishop. And if you take my bishop like this, you get mated. So you have to sacrifice... and then go like this. And computer tries to say that this is significantly better for white. I'm not, I mean, it's still very tough. Black is very safe, bishop and rook versus queen, not so fast. But this happens, and now Nepo just guards mate, f5, and moves his king out of the way. Very simple move. And here's the problem. Nepo's about to go a3. So what ends up happening, we get this, takes, here. Nepo says, hello. Hi, Anish, you have no moves. Okay, so Anish goes check, hitting the king and the bishop, and you can't take the bishop because back rank mate. Bishop goes back, b3. I thought Anish was going to go here, and this endgame is going to be losing for black, but, you know, at least it's an endgame. Maybe you survive, like, 5 more moves, but Anish played b3, and after queen e5, it's mate. It's mate. Like, it's not mate now, but it's mate after this. It's mate. This was Anish Giri's first loss of the entire tournament. Jan Nepomniachtchi, very nice win, very weird game. You know, 2 GMs playing h5, h4, but a very weird game. And I said today was a bunch of weird games and a lot of draws. There was a lot of forced draws, but there was a lot of really exciting chess as well. Here we have another Sicilian defense. This one is known as the Nimzowitsch Sicilian, where black plays knight to f6, that's not very popular, and allows their knight to be attacked. So it's kind of like an Aljokin's defense, Alekine's defense. So we get d4, knight c3, e6 defending, and black voluntarily takes this damage structure. But somehow these positions are like not completely lost. Somehow. And here's why. Queen d5 check. I'm sorry, queen d5 is not check, queen a5 is a check, and the trick is that in this position, if, for example, you block like this, you get hit with bishop takes f2 check, and you lose your queen. Now, both of these guys are relatively good chess players, nothing crazy, so they don't, you know, they don't blunder that, but also Mamedyarov plays queen b6, which is probably, I think, considered slightly better according to theory, and allows bishop takes f2, Karjakin allows bishop f2, and plays king up. So kind of a modified BONGCLOUD, if you will. Now we get castles, we get rook f1, the bishop has to leave. And now knight g5, so Karjakin says, well, I mean, I got all these pieces, I might as well go for f7. Mamedyarov says, okay, knight d4 check, I'm gonna go for your king as well, and then bring my knight back. I use the check as a tempo-winning move, and I come back to e6. Now we get knight to e4, knight to e4 attacks the bishop, and just, you know, you don't want a knight trade. So d6. Now this is a very tricky move. The point of this move is that if you accept my sacrifice, I will go rook d8, and now I have stockpiling pressure on this pawn. This bishop is going to come out, this knight is going to move, etc., etc. c3, bishop takes on d6, king c2. Karjakin hides his king away from a bishop move that would attack his queen and his king, just his queen now. Goes for a queen trade. Mamedyarov accepts. You say, why would he accept a queen trade? Well, because he's going to win a pawn, and now Mamedyarov has an extra pawn and also some extra time. g3. Not a bad move. That bishop is stuck. Who's guarding that pawn? The knight. b6. Very smart move. Looking for bishop b7. Removing the guard of the pawn. So we get bishop c4, b5. Wait. But what if I just take? Well, if you just take, then I go bishop b7, and the bishop no longer pressures. Nice pawn sacrifice there from Shahryar. Bishop comes back to d3, but this one slow move, you just want this. Shahryar wants one thing. He just wants one thing. He wants to double stack and take. So we get rook e1. Here comes the, wait, oh, we see the other idea. He wants knight to d4, and you can't take me because you're pinned. So we get bishop back to f1, bang, king has to hide, bang, rook is hit, bang, f5, and we hit the knight. Now the knight doesn't move, and knight g1. The knight becomes the knight for the white pieces, and here this hits the rook and the bishop, so white resigned. I told you today's games were going to be weird. Okay, I promised you weird games. I'm not lying. When's the last time you've seen knight on g1 and bishop on h2? Like this, except it's the black pieces. Oh, your games, because you're like 600? No. No, you know better. Trust me. You wouldn't allow this, right? Bishop h3, pinning the pawn to the rook and the other rook. You always got to look for how can they attack you. You know, f takes e4, bishop takes d7. This was a danger levels thing. But knight g1 is just such an absurd move. And he resigned because, for example, he can take the bishop. But then bishop takes e4, and the king is almost mated. It's almost mate. Look at this. It's literally almost mate. So a weird game, and a weird Sicilian, but Mamedyarov wins. That takes us to our next game. Niels Grandelius versus Alan Pichot. I've been saying Pichot because I thought it was French. But I don't know. Maybe it's Pichot as well. Which means baker, or baking in Russian. So we get another, it's like a Sicilian masterclass today. And we've seen this before. Alan Pichot actually plays the Taimanov Sicilian all the time. Niels plays bishop e3, and b5, knight takes c6. We've seen this, but we saw bc6 and d5 in the last game. So now we get queen to f3, because he wants the castle long, because he wants the castle long, because he wants to castle long. He's going to castle long at some point. He'll castle long, and he castles long. Fantastic. Now, because black has 3 light squared pawns, that means that the dark squares are under lock. Also, the whole point of pushing these pawns very early is you disallow black from getting natural development. This is kind of some of the higher level meta that we don't teach beginners to push G and H pawns because, you know, it's like using a high skilled tool. Like, just because the tool looks weird doesn't mean it's bad. It could be very good, but to use it right, you've got to be advanced, all right? If you're still trying to screw in something with a hammer, although I've done that because the screw didn't work, but you get my point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't go to level 6 when you're level 1, right? So these guys know what they're doing, so we trust them. I mean, look at this. Just nonchalantly, he's like, bro, go castle. Look, it's remember that mafia analogy? It's like the two dudes just standing outside the, you know, the business. Like, you're gonna have to come out at some point, and when you do, you're gonna get the beats. So queen a7, Pichot delays, takes. Now, if you want to attack somebody, what do? You don't trade queens. Duh, because your queen is your most powerful attacker. So now, Pichot creates counterplay. He plays b4, takes, and Niels Grandelius allows the capture with check. So check, king d2, and says, I'm safe. And he's right. He just covers up. King walks the king out to the middle and plays h6. And you say, why would Pichot castle into this? Well, the problem is he's got to guard his pawn. The thing is, if Pichot plays rook g8, his king is stuck in the center forever, right? So it's a difficult decision. He goes here, h6, queen d4. He defends mate from behind, right? Queen d4, rook d4, and now Niels says, okay, I'm going to use my attack and transition this attack into an endgame where I have an advantage. That is the difference in levels. These guys aren't just like, I gotta get checkmate. That's the difference. They use their attack to ultimately transition the game into an advantageous situation, right? We are all focused on mate. And, you know, mating is good, but you don't always have to do it, right? So, we got this little cluster, and black has what are called pawn islands. These are separated, you know, island pawns. And, Niels just keeps pushing. And there's nothing black can do to white here. Nothing. No mobility. All of white's pieces are super well coordinated. And he just, you know, slowly improves his position. Takes this pawn because you cannot even take his bishop. Right? No one could guard that. Like, if you think, why would he let... Who's going to guard the pawn? Find me a piece that can guard h7. I'll give you $1 million. If you say, Gotham, you owe me $1 million. Yeah, and now what? Oh, Gotham, you gonna have to pay up. Yeah, you know, you get what I'm saying, right? So c4, rook h7, and I mean, he just chugs away. Look at that. I mean, this is so depressing. The king can't leave. And he just keeps it. And now he's got to sacrifice. And, you know, this game went on a little bit longer. Now another transition into an endgame. Rook in 2 versus bishop in 3. He's only down 1 point. But rook c1. And in a position where black is only on the board down 1 point of material, it's plus 17 on the evaluation bar because you're going to take the pawn, promote your d-pawn, and then you're going to get a queen. So we get a win for Niels Grandelius. And in our final match of the day, we are featuring the marquee matchup between A1 Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen and A1 Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura. This was the final round of 15. It was a completely insane game. I'm just going to tell you this right now. One of the craziest games these two have ever played. So buckle up. Magnus begins with e4, Hikaru plays e5, but it's not what you think. I know when we see e4, e5, we get these boring Ruy Lopez's. No. Magnus played the move king to e2. Now, I'm kind of disappointed the chess.com database doesn't call this what it is. This is not the king's pawn opening. This is the BONGCLOUD variation. Now, if you're a longtime chess fan and you are not in touch with current event memes, this is a meme opening. If you don't know what memes are, you're beyond salvation, okay? Pause the video and go type in what are memes into Google, okay? So, Hikaru obviously responds with king to e7. And now we get king e1, king e8, king e2, king e7, and the players repeat moves. Now, this is the part where you say, Levy, why would they do this? And this is the part where I say, Magnus Carlsen was already in first place. Winning an extra game doesn't do anything for him. Hikaru was already locked in for 4th place. He could have fought for 3rd, but he's already qualified. He doesn't care. And then I got a question for you. Why not? Just think about that for a second. Agad Matar, who I respect dearly, he is a fantastic chess content creator. He's a pioneer of chess on YouTube. He said that this game made him sad. He was very upset. He made a video about this game, and he was very upset. I just don't understand why. I don't understand why. And to me, I found it funny. I took nothing out of it. And tomorrow, we will begin the quarterfinal matchups, which I will show you in a moment. But I just don't understand why everybody's so upset. And somebody said, it's like a football match. Imagine you go to the stadium and your football teams don't play. They just do some silly stuff. It's not, but it's not the same. That's not, I mean, first of all, professional football matches happen once a week. Also, people have, TV contracts and all these different things. But this is the final standing. Magnus Carlsen wins the preliminary stage. Anish Giri, Wesley So, Hikaru Nepo, Firouzja MVL, and Ranyan. Those are also the matchups. 1 plays 8. Carlsen versus Aranyan. The winner of that match plays the winner between Nakamura and Nepo. So Nakamura versus Nepo. We have Wesley So and Firouzja on the other side of the bracket with Anish, Giri, and MVL. Let me know your predictions in the comments. Who do you think is going to make it? Who do you want to see make it? And let me know your thoughts on what you think about the double BONGCLOUD draw. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't hate it. And if we never see it again, then it was like a unicorn, right? So, I don't know why everybody's so upset. I think we should all just be a little bit more positive, you know? I'll see you tomorrow.